Are you relocating to Colorado Springs? Well, I'm going to walk you through it step by step right now. All right, let's start with that step-by-step guide to relocating to Colorado Springs. First, if you've never watched my videos before, my name is Steve Cannon. I'm a realtor in Colorado Springs, and I get tons of calls, emails, text messages every day asking about moving to Colorado Springs. What's it like? How much does it cost? What do I need to do? What's the housing market like, etc. I love getting those calls, and I'm always available. Okay, let's start with step number one. And step number one is going to be critical. Everybody gets this step out of order, so let's cover it first. First of all, you need to find a realtor. Find a good realtor. Especially in the town that you're moving to, find one that has lived there for a significant amount of time, because they're going to know a lot of the local resources. They're going to have people available for everything you need. They're going to know where to go for what, and they're going to be able to answer a lot of your questions. So when you start, get a realtor and get one right away. Too many people make the mistake of waiting until after they found the house that they want, and you call the number on the sign, and you're like, hey, I have this really great house. Can you get me in? I want to see it. We'd like to buy this. Well, the first thing that realtor is going to ask, are you pre-approved? Don't skip this step. Get a realtor first. The realtor is also going to help you with step number 2, 3, and so on. So it's going to be really critical that you find a realtor first and start there. Number 2, selling the current home that you're in. Or if you don't have one to sell and you're renting, you're good to go, but make sure that timing is right. If you have to end a lease, one of the things that people forget about when they're leasing is what kind of lease break fees are there? What kind of, what are they going to charge you to break your lease? Or what are they going to charge you if you want to stay an extra month or two to prepare to move? So think about that. I managed property for over 10 years. I know all about those. So that's something to watch, and it's something people don't think about. Now, if you do have a house that you need to prepare to get onto the market to sell before you can move or relocate, I have videos on that. That's a day for another video, but I do have videos on getting your house ready to sell on the market. So look at those. But for right now, for this step, the most critical thing is getting your house out there sold so that you can relocate out here. Now, you may decide that you don't want to sell the house that you're in. Maybe you want to rent it out and keep it as income property, which is a good idea. If that's something you're going to do, let's talk about that, or talk about that with your realtor and see what your options are. It may make sense and it may not. It's a little different for everybody. Also, do you need to sell the house you're in now to have money to buy the next house, or is it completely paid for? So these are things that you need to consider when deciding to relocate. If you decide to rent your house out, I have other videos on preparing your house for rental too, so look those up. Let's talk about step number 3, financing. So you need to decide, how are you paying for the new house? That's what this boils down to. Are you paying cash? Do you need to get a loan? Do you need to sell your first house, use the money from that? There's a lot of options there. If you're going to be paying cash, that opens up a whole lot of options for you, puts you at the head of the pack when you're making offers on homes. Cash is still king. Now, if you need to get a loan for either part or all of your home purchase, then a good lender is going to be critical in financing your new home. Again, now we're back to having that good realtor. Talk to your realtor. They should have a list of good lenders that they've worked with in the past and can help you with your particular situation. So as far as that goes, things to consider is going to be, can you get a VA loan? Do you qualify for a VA loan? Do you need an FHA loan? Do you need a conventional loan? And how much do you need to borrow? Again, people that make that mistake of going out and start looking at houses, and then they find the house that they really want in the neighborhood they really want, and then they call and say, hey, I found a house. And again, you didn't get pre-qualified. If that house is $575,000, you're qualified for $525,000, what are you going to do? You're just going to be disappointed. So it's critical that you get with your lender first, that you get a pre-approval letter. Your realtor is going to need that to make an offer on the house because they're going to have to submit it with the offer. That pre-approval letter is also going to show you how much you qualify for. Also, keep in mind, it's important to shop around for a lender. Too many people make the mistake of using the first lender that they find. Don't do that. Shop around. They all have different programs. They have different interest rates. And you may find out that there's just a personality conflict with the lender. So it's important to talk to several of them. And again, your realtor should give you a list of several of them that they've worked with in the past that they know are good at VA loans or good at FHA loans, whatever the case may be. So again, get with your realtor on that and do your homework when it comes to finding a lender. If you're finding you're getting great content, please do me a favor, hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. Number 4, let's get to the fun part, and that's shopping for your new home. There's going to be many things to consider when shopping for your new home. And I would suggest that you make a list, or in the description for this video, there's going to be a link to a relocation guide that you can download for free. I suggest you do that. It'll have a lot of things in there that I'm not even covering on this video. So on your list, when you're things to consider, location. And I think the best way to narrow down location is to start with where you don't want to live first. And by narrowing out those areas of town that you don't want to live in, we're not even going to bother pulling up house searches or anything else in that area. So first thing is to narrow down where you don't want to live, and that'll help you get a nice area of where you do want to live. Price. The price is going to help us narrow down what area of town that you can start looking for homes in. And the price, remember, you can only get after you get your financing unless you're paying cash. So again, don't skip the financing step because you'll need that pre-approval letter so that we know how much you can qualify for before we even look at those houses. So that'll help narrow down that list a little bit. One of the other things I wanted to remind you, in price, always consider in your price taxes, HOA dues, and insurance. Those 3 things are going to add to the price of your home, not necessarily to the cost of the home, but it's going to add to your monthly payment. HOA fees can run anywhere from $30 a year to over $3,000 a year, depending on what area of town you're in, whether you have a new build, an old build, again, what neighborhood that's in. So keep those things in mind. Taxes are the same way. Your taxes are probably going to be a little bit higher if you get into a new build area because they have a lot of things to pay for, new streets, new sewer systems, new water lines, etc. So keep some of those things in mind. Also, insurance. Your insurance can run pretty high if you live in a fire danger area or an area that tends to have landslides or has a risk for that. So keep that in mind as well. And when you're out shopping for a house, you're going to want to have your insurance guy on your side. I would suggest normally go with whoever you have your car insurance with, or again, your realtor can give you a list of insurance companies to check with that have been insuring a lot of homes in the area. School districts. A school district may be very important to you if you have children that are going to be going to public school. Now, we have a lot of private schools in town, parochial schools, charter schools, and so keep those things in mind. The other thing to think of is views. I have a lot of people, they move out here or they get a hold of me to look for homes out here, and they tell me, Steve, I want a house with a view. And I'm like, all right. I start getting all fired up to show them all these great houses that sit on the ridge and have these beautiful, beautiful picturesque views of the mountains. It's gorgeous. And they get to town and we go to look at them and they're like, Steve, I don't want to see the mountains. I want to be in the mountains. I want to see the town. I want to be up. I want to see those city lights at night. I like looking out at that big plain. So think about that. If you want views, tell your realtor, be specific. I either want views of the city or I want views of the mountain. Maybe I want views of Pikes Peak. Maybe I want views of the Garden of the Gods. Maybe it's views of Cheyenne Mountain. So keep that in mind. Views are a big thing, and that's going to, now, not that there's not views of the mountains from pretty much everywhere in town, but there are obviously houses in certain neighborhoods and in certain parts of those neighborhoods that have fantastic unobstructed views. Here's some other things to consider. Cell service and internet. Now, because we don't live on a big flat plane here. You're going to have different cell service, and internet services are going to vary all over the place. If you're right in the city, then usually you don't have too much to worry about. You have Comcast and CenturyLink, things like that, where we have high-speed internet pretty much everywhere. But if you decide, I want to live in Woodland Park, Manitou Springs, maybe up on one of these ridges, you do that, and now you could get into some pretty spotty situations for cell service and for internet. So I get people that move here because now they can work from home, so they can live anywhere they want. And what they want is, they want 2 acres, they want to be up in the mountains, they want a nice little wooded area, and be able to work from home from there and be out of the city. When we go look at those homes, the first thing you need to realize is, do I get internet? Do I have high-speed internet? Can I get 400 meg download speeds, which I need for my job? Or am I going to be stuck with HughesNet at 25 meg download speeds on a nice clear day? That's very important, so consider that. The other thing is cell service. If a cell phone is extremely important for your business, for instance, you don't need to be living somewhere with spotty cell service. So those are things to consider here just because of the terrain that we live in. Let's talk about whether you want a new build or you want an existing home. A new build is going to be a brand new home. Most of those, not all of them, but most of those are going to be east of town. So they're going to be out on a big open plain. And I'll have some videos you can look at for new home builds. We can get into that with something else. But for this video, I want you to consider, do you want a brand new home? I mean, granted, they come with brand new everything, home warranty for a year, that kind of thing. Or would you rather have some older home? And if you are going to have an older home, decide, what era of home did you want built in? I have several clients that wanted things built before 1950. They love that stuff from the 40s and 30s and before. They love the craftsmanship, just the care that was put into the uniqueness, because they are all very, very different. And but also with those older homes like that, if they haven't been renovated or updated, you may have some work to do in there. So that's something to think about. We literally looked at a few of them that were like time capsules, like pink stoves and refrigerators and wallpaper, shag carpeting, you name it. So consider that. If you're looking for a specific era of home, then put that on your list and let your realtor know to start looking for houses built before, a certain time to a certain time. Or maybe you say, hey, I really don't want that old of a home, but I really like to have something that was built in the last 20 years. So maybe 2010 or newer. So that'll really help your realtor narrow down what homes to show you, so he's not wasting your time or his time or her time trying to figure that out. Number 5, the big move. Now you've got all these other things out of the way. You found the house. You got it under contract. Now it's time to move out here. So a couple of things you need to consider here right away. When you're moving out here, how seamless is this going to be? In other words, are you going to be able to move out of your existing house and move directly into this one? I mean, obviously that's the ideal situation, and it doesn't always happen that way. Matter of fact, it probably happens that way 3% of the time. 97% of the time, there's that in between. What am I going to do? So you need to decide whether, especially if you have a large family, are you going to bring them all out here right away and rent something until you can get moved into your house? Maybe that's only a week or two, maybe it's a month or two. Or do you stay where you're at and live with family, or maybe add on, if you can work it out so that you can stay in your old house, maybe you rent it back after you sell it, rent it back for a month or two until you can get everything moved out here and close on this house. There's a lot to consider there. Again, your realtor is going to help you with that. That's what they're there for. So rely on them to help you make some of these decisions and go through what it entails and what's going to work best for your situation, because everybody has a different situation. For instance, if you're moving out here, if you're moving out here and you're retired and you don't have to move out here for a job, you're going to have a little more leeway on how soon you need to come out here and getting things set up and everything else. However, if you have a family of 5 and one of you has to get out here to start a job in literally 6 weeks or 4 weeks, that's going to put a pinch on things. So you may end up moving the whole family out and renting for a few months and taking clothes on a house, or everybody stays there and the person that needs to come out here and start their job rents out here until he can close on the house. But again, get with your realtor on that. They're going to be a great resource to help you decide. You're also going to need a moving company and or a storage place at one end of the journey or the other. Whether you store stuff there until you can get it moved out here, or whether you come out here and have to store it. If you can't do that, load it up, move it, and move in. But watch moving companies. If this is something that you haven't done a lot, moving companies are expensive. And they're going to have all of your personal belongings. So do your research on moving companies and look at the online reviews for moving companies. Look at their Better Business Bureau reports. These are going to be important. The last thing you need is to be living in your house for 3 weeks trying to figure out where your moving company's at, and they get it halfway here and decide, well, I'm just going to charge you a little bit more because this or that came up. Or, nah, you had more furniture than I thought. I have seen this happen over and over. So be careful with moving companies. It's really important. And this is something you should start researching now when you're deciding to move or preparing to move, not when it's time to move. And start asking around. If you know other people that have moved, again, get with your realtor. They're going to help you with some of the moving companies that they've dealt with in the past. So that one's a big one, and it can be very, very expensive mistake if you don't do your research. And don't forget, utilities. You're going to have to get all the utilities in your name. You're going to have to line up a trash service. So those are things to consider. Again, you can rely on your realtor to help you line up with some of those. If you stay right within the city limits of Colorado Springs, we really just have one company, which is, it's good and bad. It's one because it's easy. You get on, you sign up. However, remember, you may have to pay a deposit depending on where you're moving from and what your credit is, things like that. So check with the utility company, and it's Colorado Springs Utilities here, and they're going to cover your water, your wastewater, your electric, and your gas. If you live outside of the city limits, you get into some of these other little areas around here, and you're going to have other services other companies available for some of those services. But in Colorado Springs, just one company. Trash, we have a pretty high competition for trash, guys. There's a lot of trash companies here, so you can shop around for trash. Again, get on and look at their online reviews and things like that and see who likes which company and maybe why they don't like them. One of my other videos that I have on here that you can look up, I talk a little bit more about utilities and trash, and that one's the cost of living in Colorado Springs. Another thing to consider is going to be getting a new driver's license here, getting your cars registered here. I mean, there is a lot of tiny little things like that you don't realize until after you move, and these things start coming up, and you're like, I forgot about that. I forgot about this. That's why it's important. Get that guide that I have on there. A lot of those things are going to be listed. Start thinking ahead of all those things that you're going to need when you move. And that brings me to my last point, which is going to be really, really important. This may be the most stressful thing you've ever done. I know it doesn't sound like it, but it is not like moving across town. Personally, we used to move every 2 years. Every 2 years. I got really good at moving. I can give you some great tips on packing, unpacking, how to sort stuff, you name it. But moving across the country is entirely different. And again, it can be really stressful. So please, whoever you're moving out here with, whether it's a spouse, a significant other, just kids, whatever, understand all the stress that comes with it. Have that conversation ahead of time. Understand that, it's going to be different stress on different people. For instance, when we first moved to Colorado Springs, I had 2 daughters. One daughter was in 9th grade, and we pulled her out of 9th grade to move here. Man, fireworks. I can't even begin to tell you how upset she was and how much stress we had to go with her, leaving all of her friends, going to a new school, the whole 9 yards. So keep that in mind. It's going to be stressful. Just be aware of it and help each other. So that's it for my list. If you're considering relocating to Colorado Springs, I support you 100%. We love it out here. We originally moved out here with the intent of, I want to live somewhere where it's like being on vacation all the time. And it is. There is so much to do here. The weather is great. The people are fantastic. Everybody's from somewhere else. So just my pitch on, if you want to move out here, do it. I think you'll really enjoy it. Again, great weather, great people, and there's a lot of outdoor activities here. Great, you made it to the end. Congratulations. And thank you for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it. And if you found value in it, please hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. And I look forward to talking to you. If you have any questions, all my contact information is below. Please feel free to reach out. Day, night, and weekends, I'm here to help. Oh, I'm going to need another beer.